because there's some kind of attention or some kind of a buildup inside of you, which could come from any number of sources. But what can happen is that you could misread, miscue, or misunderstand somebody, and then you find yourself reacting. So H. Norman Wright is saying this: you don't really communicate unless you send and receive the correct message. And that's something that I want for you to think about. So if you're not ever clicking with somebody, you're really not communicating. You're just trying to make sense of what's going on. How complicated is this between men and women? I love this illustration. It is just so much fun. Guys, hi means hi. We all know that. And so I have coined a phrase in marriage that's called dense male syndrome. Dense male syndrome. A guy does not get a girl. A guy understands some parts, but as you can look on this is a really great stereotype, is if Vanna says to me, when we were first married, and I would say, "Hi, honey, it seems like something's wrong. Is anything wrong?" She would say, "No, nothing's wrong." And I would just go about and do my own business. Because I grew up in a family of men. And if we said nothing was wrong, guess what? Nothing was wrong. You just go live your own life, and if something needed to be talked about, it would eventually be talked about. Not so with my wife. Nothing means one of 7 things, is what I finally figured out. It either means that I'm really angry at the kids, the dog pooped on the carpet, there are dirty dishes that are in the sink, I have way too much to do, I don't feel very good today, you haven't really affirmed me and taken care of me exactly the way that you want to, or I'm just really at my wit's end. I have no idea what nothing means when I would first get started, because I would say to you, "No, I'm feeling pretty angry," or "I'm feeling pretty frustrated." A guy is way more honest, generally speaking, in these relationships by being more clear. And so you can see, gentlemen, what I want you to see out of this is your wife has a comparison gene. A comparison gene. Gene in quotes. And that means that she is constantly evaluating everything. The way your children respond to other people's children. The way you responded to her today versus yesterday. The way that the colleagues that she's working with are treating her today versus the other day. The way that the church feels to her this week instead of last week. The way that the children are dressed and feeling to her emotionally and relationally, and the way that somebody else's family is raising their kids compared to you. There is just this natural, big communication that's going on, and that's actually moving toward you. So ladies, would you agree with me that sometimes men just don't get you? Just don't get you. And I want to give men a shorthand way of just kind of figuring out what to do with that here in just a little bit, because guys, I want you to be able to get them. I love this face right here. It's my favorite face. The only reason I couldn't find a guy that had a big mouth like that. So this is not a stereotypical thing, but I just love that mouth. It's just really fun. But you'll notice here is how is the message really communicated? And there are some strengths with men and some strengths with women that are on here that can get a little bit out of whack. And so as you look at this, it says 55% are nonverbals. Remember, we're always communicating with each other in the way that you appear in the physical world with another person. Secondly, is you've got tone of voice. Gentlemen, here's what I want you to know. I have never met a woman who does not care about the tone of voice. But I have met a lot of men who really don't give a rip. They don't really care. I mean, you talk to them a certain way, they shut you down, shut you out, and go their own way, and they get over it. Women don't get over it. They simmer over tone of voice. And I do want you to know that you're looking at a guy that tries to reform my tone of voice, but I have an aggressive personality. I get things done. My nickname for my personality is called Field Marshal. And I have this little thing that I call business mode. So that when I get really stressed out, everything becomes black and white, I move through it more quickly, and I don't really care how you feel because I'm running you over to get the task done. And so if I run over my wife emotionally or tonally with all of that, she tends to protest. I don't really understand why that's so important to her, because I'm getting the job done. But how the job is done is more important than getting the job done to a woman. Getting the job done is more important to a man than how the job is done, which is really kind of fascinating as a difference. So what you're looking at here is a tone of voice is going to be really important. Now ladies, look at that number 2% up there, unintuitive. That's woman's intuition. Only 2% is really your intuition. And what I want to say about that I have observed, although I can't find a really good study about this, is this. A woman can get in the ballpark, but she can't mind read, even though she thinks she can. I really know what you're thinking about this. Oh, no, you don't. Because now I'm not even thinking about it to prove to you that you can't read me in my mind. Oh, no, you can't. So here's what I want you to know, ladies. God has given you, go back to the, I think I'm going to try this. Go back to that right there. God has given you the unique ability to understand a bigger picture more easily than a man. But you still don't know all of the specifics. So if you turn that unique ability onto a person, you say, I really know what you were really up to. I really know what you were really thinking. You can actually alienate somebody as a result of that. What you know is that something's off. You can intuitively tell it. And in fact, I often tell my wife, if you ever want to know what's going on with the kids, sick the Holy Spirit on them. Because within 7 days, we'll know exactly what's happening. It usually only takes 3. Something bubbles up to the surface. So if you, as a mom, really believe that something's off and your dense male husband is like, I have no idea, everything seems fine to me, there's probably something that's brewing underneath the surface. But you just don't know what it is. And so you turn it over to the Holy Spirit, who, by the way, has the job of conviction. I just love that. Convict us of our sin. In John chapter 16. John chapter 16, the Holy Spirit convicts us. And so what you want to do is send that Holy Spirit conviction on other people, even onto your husband, so that he begins to get it in some fashion. So you don't have to do that. And you notice the last one is 8% is actual words used. Now I believe that words have dictionary meanings. Do you all agree with me that words have dictionary meanings in here? I want you to know that I try to use words from a dictionary definition rather than exaggeration. However, my wife has the spiritual gift of exaggeration. And like most women, she uses words in order to try to get at something that the words themselves might not adequately express. So when you look at, we're going to talk about men's brains and women's brains here just a little bit, but there's a difference between men and women that is so striking, gentlemen, is that your woman might not be able to find the adequate words to say what she wants to say. She might not be able to find the words, and we'll talk a little bit about brain science coming up in a little video here about why that's true. In fact, that might be the next one. Is that men's brains? No, that's just differences. And so what we're going to look at is, why is that really true? So gentlemen, here's what I want you to know, is that you listen for themes in what your wife says, rather than specific details. Themes are much better than details. Because if she can't say it the right way, and she says it the wrong way, and all of a sudden you're fighting with her while she's trying to communicate with you, she's doubly frustrated, and you're like, oh my goodness, this isn't ever going to work at all. Because she might have a hard time grasping at and getting the words out, and so she might have to re-say it. So in a marriage, should be the safest place for communication for redos. So when you get talking about this, reflectively and say, is this what you're talking about? And she says, no. I want you to know, I was talking to a woman at our church. I'm an elder at a church. Been there for 12 years, and there was a lady who was frustrated with a decision that we had made to end a lady, kind of a daycare program within the church that they were helping to provide for Mom's Day Out. And then she ended up leaving the church because she didn't like a certain memorization component of our children's ministry, which is okay. But I made her say to me probably 8 times before I understood what she was really meaning, because I could say the words back and I would say, is this what you mean? And she's going, no, I don't really get that. And I'm going, okay, I'm not dumb, but I'm not getting this. And I said, don't get mad at me, just, I really want to understand. It took about 8 times for me to really understand, because she was emotional, she was frustrated, she was trying to find all the right words, she was using great words, and I was putting it together, and I put it together 8 different ways using all of those words. And I kept thinking, okay, you have to help me figure this out. And finally, I was able to understand what she wanted to say. She said, yes, that's it. And I'm thinking, why didn't you say that in the first place? She did say it that way, she thought, in the first place. Which is why it's so important that you go for the meaning rather than get angry when somebody doesn't really say it the way that you want. Now here's what, a side note, this is free tonight only. I know, this will cover the price of your admission tonight. Is Paul said that a man who's an elder should be married and have children. Why? This is part of the reason why. This is part of the reason why. Now, I don't want to talk a lot about, get into the qualifications of elders as we talk about them, but this is part of the reason why. Because a man who is going to lead the flock has to understand communication. And his wife will teach him every single kind of communication there is known to humanity. And if he can't communicate with her, he can't communicate in there. There is no way he can do it. This is a big stretch for us as guys, because it's a lot easier for us to work with guys than it is a whole complexion of people. So this is a really kind of a neat little thing here. Now, this is just a fun little video about just differences between men and women, and I think that you'll find these to be really fun and true. Let's see, does this have a pointer that a laser or something? I'm going to have to, hold on. We have to do this now. Let me find it. All right. That should work. It's in French and English. This is your foreign language lesson for the night. So true. The date's at 8 o'clock.
Three other scores first.
They tried to make this a short version.
More staff. Ever just something.
Okay, what did you notice about those? What were the ones that you enjoyed the most? or noticed?
The talking,
Oh, yes.
like when women are with women and men
Yes.
are with men.
Yes. Let me just tell you a little bit about men and women. Gentlemen, your wife will interrupt you all the time when you try to talk to her. Because she builds a relationship through conversation and she's used to talking with and over and around other ladies. So I call that girlfriending you. So if all of a sudden you're like wanting to say something and she interrupts that, what she's doing is she's trying to build a relationship with you. She's not meaning to be disrespectful. Every man understands it to be disrespectful. Because I don't want people interrupting me at work. So if I'm talking to you and trying to give you directions, I want you to listen to that. I want you to hear what I have to say. And then when I'm done, we can take a series of questions and we can handle it all that way because we just have it kind of this linear little, I mean, every man kind of understands that that's the way that men talk to each other. But women, they just kind of jump in onto the conversation and they will join in on the conversation in some way. So, gentlemen, here's what I want you to tell your wife. If you have something really important to say and she jumps in too early, you need to do this in advance because she'll think that you're being mad at her. Is say, I really want to tell you one whole thing and then I want to talk to you about it. So I need you to listen to me. And it will kill her. I promise you, it will kill her. Because about 2/3 of the way through, or maybe 1/4 of the way through, she'll have something she'll want to say. And then it will take her about 5 minutes to say that, and then you'll forget what you were talking about. So just so that you're aware, that is a source of a great deal of conflict. Because at the very end of Ephesians chapter 5, Paul says that wives are to respect their husbands, and husbands are to love their wives. And to interrupt a man on a regular basis is not a sign of respect to a man. This is a marriage is a whole different kind of relationship than any other kind of relationship. And so this is where you have to have the new perspective. You have to understand that your wife wants to build a relationship with you. Now, men build relationships through activities. In fact, a guy can go out, I saw the soccer over here. If you have a men's soccer team that's out here playing soccer,